In a display of solidarity and adherence to tradition, the city of Bamenda has once again observed the Monday Ghost Town, a day of the shutdown and reflection. Today, Monday, June 30th, was no exception. As in customary, the city streets are early quiet, with commercial activities grinding to a halt. Transportation has been severely impacted, with many vehicles off the roads. The usually bustling streets and dry and devoid of the usual hustle and bustle. The Monday Ghost Town has become an integral part of the city's culture, a testament to the resilience and determination of its residents. Despite the challenges, the people of Bamenda have remained true to this tradition, making it a day to pause and reflect. However, the financial implications of this shutdown are significant, with La Republic du Cameroon bearing a substantial brunt. The loss of revenue from market activities, tolls and other commercial transactions on Monday takes a huge toll on La Republic du Cameroon coffers, impacting the city's ability to fund essential services and infrastructure projects. The city's shutdown is a deliberate act of defiance and solidarity, showcasing the community's commitment to their values and principles. As the day has unfolded, the people of Bamenda are continuing to stand united, observing this day with the usual solemnity and discipline. The Monday Ghost Town serves as a reminder of the city's unwavering spirit and its people's ability to come together in the face of adversity as the day comes to a close. The residents of Bamenda will continue to have once again demonstrated their dedication to this tradition, a tradition that has become an integral part of their Monday identity. Before we get to our in-house analyst, Barrister Amba, let's take this report that says that chief has been disgraced. So this move underscores the betrayal of the people and the desecration of essential values. A former local chief turned collaborator with the occupying La Republic du Cameroon regime was quietly buried by colonial soldiers, abandoned by his own subjects and community. The individuals, once installed as chief of Elimbe village at Mai 18 Buea, was known among locals not for leadership but for his notorious alliance with the genocidal forces of La Republic du Cameroon, bearing the rank of sub-lieutenant. He reportedly led severe brutal campaigns across Fako and Muyuka, where many Ambazonians were subjected to unspeakable atrocities, including killings, rapes, and legal arrests. His demise, allegedly caused by a local explosive device referred to in Ambazonian slangs as a pumpkin, was hailed by some locals as poetic justice. The burial, conducted without the traditional presence of his people or any cultural rites, was carried out by foreign soldiers under the occupation forces, which is further emphasizing the rejection of his legacy by the community he once betrayed. Adding insult to injury, land which he controversially tried to sell at Mai 18 with backing from the colonial government has now been frozen following an injunction from Yaoundé. Locals have maintained that the land rightly belongs to the people of Muyuka local government area, not the Elimdo village, exposing the layers of deceit involved in his dealings with the colonial administration. Meanwhile, activists across the Amazonian territories have reiterated that this incident reinforces the importance of vigilance, loyalty to the courts, and the ongoing fight to reclaim Amazonian sovereignty. This action serves as a warning to all collaborators who sell their conscience for crumbs. Barrister Amba, welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Yeah, thank you for having me once more for this weekly ritual.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go down to the story of this chief that died, and he wasn't buried properly, no cultural rights. According to reports, his people were not even around, just because of how they feel betrayed by his actions. Do you think that it's just about how he's been betrayed by the actions, or is the fact that probably the insecurities would have probably scared people away from participating in the funeral ceremony?
Now, I think it is almost everything because, in strict terms, Ambazonia, like most African communities, are made of traditional communities headed by traditional leaders called chiefs. And the African context, and most particularly in Amazonia, chiefs don't die, they just go on a journey. So this man, strictly speaking, was not a chief.
Okay.
He could have called himself a chief by name, but was not truly a chief. In other words, he was not a product of the community from which he came. If he was a real product of the community from which he came, he would be chief over them. If he was chief there, he would better according to the traditional rights of those people. I'm sure, perfectly sure, 100%, that the traditional rights of those people that he claimed to be leader over did not include military parade, did not include gendarmes and people wearing helmets to bury chiefs. And so he was not a chief. He was a chief crowned, perhaps, by the administration to serve their purpose, a collaborator. What is the difference between this man and Moja, the self-made chief of Yaoundé, who was created to serve their purpose, tortured civilians, killed people, and when the time came, he was taken into custody, and the so-called palace was burnt to ashes. And what has happened? They have installed another one there in the name of chief. And so this gentleman, as you rightly said, was a collaborator. The style that is giving his departure is Buea. It speaks for it. There's no chief in Amazonia. No one that I know, a true chief, who is buried in covered by government flag, the Cameroon flag. Never. You can come and hold the flag there during your funeral to portray you as assistant to the administration. But they don't tie your coffin, if I told you your coffin, with their uniform, with their flag. It never happens in Amazonia. Because the flag, that piece of cloth you find lying on top of his coffin, is something that the white man brought. A symbol that would try to show that we're a country under that. It is not a symbol to show that all villages, all clans became one under that flag. No. They live as independent clans, independent villages, independent fiefdoms, perform their rights in their way without being disturbed from anywhere. And so this gentleman was not a chief. If he had been a chief again from my own area, he would not even go into a coffin because chiefs don't die anyway. You're going to transition somewhere, and then they are giving a rebirth. Now, having been buried in a coffin, having been buried abroad, do we expect to have his successor? If there must be a successor, is he going to be brought by Yaoundé and installed there? Certainly not. You see, from all things that you see there, a lot is spoken about it. You don't see a single civilian there. Was that chief so unpopular that not even one of his would come to give me a final goodbye? Certainly not. So I would assume that the people of that community that is supposed to have been the head understand what is going on. They understanding that this guy was a sellout. He had betrayed their own tradition. He had betrayed their own people. And so when he died, it was good riddance. Unlike General Efang, they abandoned his corpse to the military to do what they wanted to do. And they did. They put him in a wooden coffin, tied him in foreign dresses, and dumped him in a hole in a foreign land. And so this man was a curse. It's a symbol. Many of our other chiefs are there who have fled from their own homes, from their own villages, from their own clans, and sought shelter abroad. But dying abroad, that is out of your own community, does not make you a member of the new community. This is the universal law. Because, for example, Americans who die in the war front in Germany, they bring back their homes here. French people who died in their foreign wars in Vietnam, they try to bring them back to France when they can find even their bones. And so the same culture will have. If the chief of Bafoot, or anybody from Bafoot, or Bambalam, or anywhere, died in Kumba, died in Bamenda town, died somewhere out of his own place, you find the whole community will mobilize to take you back home. Because that's the tradition. Recognized worldwide. You'll be taken back home. The fact that this guy has not been taken back home shows that he's been abandoned. But because he had abandoned the people, he had failed. He was no longer a chief. In the strict sense, he could have carried the title chief because he would drink beer, because the prefect, the super prefect would give him money. They would even dress him up the way he wanted. They would give him a suit if he wanted one. But chieftaincy is more than that. And so what has happened to this man should be a reminder to our early leaders, those who pose as our leaders, chiefs, farms, community leaders by tradition, should learn never to fall into this trap. And I'll say congratulations to that community from where this guy comes, who abandoned him to the hands of the invaders, or the people who had adopted him as their own new chief, buried him in their own way, and I hope you will never see the guts of his village anymore.